Imagine the following scene. You are sitting in a movie theater, chewing on popcorn and sipping your too large to be real Slurpee, watching an adorable animated lion cub struggle to grab a tree branch in the midst of a wildebeest stampede. You are on the edge of your seat, watching as this young lion cub's majestic lion father attempts to rescue him. Your palms are sweating, your heart is beating, and as the majestic lion father is pushed off a cliff to his death by his evil brother, you start to cry. You hear the young lion say, "Dad? Dad? Daddy?" It's happened to me, and it's happened to a lot of people. We cry when we watch movies. There is something that almost blurs the line between the lives we see on the screen and our own lives. There is a blur between fiction and reality. Now, imagine this scene in contrast. You're sitting on your couch, plastic game controller in hand, a bag of chips and an oversized bottle of Mountain Dew on the table in front of you, and you're playing your third round of Call of Duty. And you watch as your closest friend in the platoon is killed, and you are clearly losing the battle. You feel something inside, a feeling of serious loss, and the physical feeling of tears welling up inside your eyes. Now, this has not happened to me. I don't really play video games, but many people do. And as video games evolve, they become more real. And as they become more real, it becomes more difficult to distinguish the clear line between fiction and reality. So here's the question. Can a video game make you cry? So let's start with the basics. From the beginning of time, humans have been playing games. From Indian hoop games to shooting dice, all the way to Pong, and today with Call of Duty and FIFA World Cup. As our intellect has evolved, so have the games we play. But have these games gone too far? Let's just look at some facts. In 2011, consumers spent $24.75 billion on video games, hardware, and accessories. You'd think that video games are targeted to a younger audience, but the most frequent game purchaser is 35 years old. And we typically think that most video gamers are men. Actually, 47% of all game players are women. Women over the age of 18 represent a significantly greater portion of the game-playing population, 30%, than boys age 17 or younger, which only account for 18%. And you'd be surprised that 73% of video games in 2011 had no mature content at all. Moving forward and looking at a specific example, take World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft has 11 million subscribers. It makes $150 million a month in subscriptions. And for a person to get started, it costs $30, which makes them another $275 million. The game cost around $80 million to make, so basically it paid for itself in about a month. Now look at the graphics. The graphics in all video games have evolved from stick figures in a one-dimensional setting to incredibly realistic three-dimensional characters, complete with thousands of facial expressions, outfits, lighting techniques, and victory dance moves. Look at war games. War games began with a simple one-dimensional tank shooting simulation, where tanks would shoot each other with dots of ammunition. No blood or gore was shown. War games then became incredibly more realistic with foliage and forts and individual characters who shot guns with tiny explosions. Then came the three-dimensional simulation reality war video games, where the player is placed into an incredibly real mock war situation, including plot lines, romance, blood and gore, helicopters, snipers, bombings, and death. A similar evolution has occurred in basketball games, Star Wars games, boxer and fighting games, first-person shooter games, and driving games. There are two ways of knowing that especially tie into this idea of indistinguishable reality in video games: perception and emotion. Now, the following statement comes from a video game addict. He's able to shed a light on the idea of the blurring of real-world emotion and perception and simulated video game emotion and perception. He said, "I, like many of you, live between reality and video games. Some part of me is a true, living, breathing person, but has become programmed, electronic, and virtual. The boundary of my brain that divides real from fantasy has finally begun to crumple. I am a video game addict." Now, video gamers perceive the virtual world and the real world to be incredibly similar, if not the same. The emotions they feel in the video games are more vivid and more tangible than the real world. Studies have shown that the addictive quality of video games stems from the warmth and comfort of the TV set, something we have been subjected to since our early childhoods. Then just add the simple interactive stories of video games and it becomes an alternate existence, your own virtual reality. The emotions experienced in video games, although somewhat ridiculous to non-gamers, are real emotions. So where's the line between too violent or too perverse? The clearest example of crossing the line is the Japanese video computer game Rape Lay. The plot of the game is centered around a male character who stalks and rapes a mother and her two daughters. The player can choose from a variety of sexual positions and controls the action with the mouse. After having his way with the girls and completing the first level of the rape simulation, the player can choose from 6 modes of gameplay that involve different sexual fantasies. To finish the game, the player can choose the black ending, in which one of the girls is impregnated and keeps the child, or the red ending, in which the girl will stab the player until he dies. This game was at one point available for purchase on Amazon.com. Today, it has been banned in Argentina, Malaysia, and Thailand. In response to this game, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito wrote in response to Brown v. Entertainment Merchants Association that it appears that there is no antisocial theme too base for some in the video game industry to exploit. Articles have been written in defense of rape play, stating that rape is a lesser crime compared to murder, that the game should continue. Regardless of the validity of that statement, there is a huge logical error. There are thousands of legal video games in which the goal is to murder, to kill enemies.
But look at this differently and address the counter-argument. Perhaps a virtual reality can teach people to do the right thing with games focused on environmental protection and medicine. So tying back to the first question, yes, video games for some people hold a special alternate reality where their feelings are better expressed through a character rather than the real world. For better or worse, the conclusion is unclear. But something stands true. A video game can make you cry.